Hello everyone, sorry about that. My stream dropped out. Not sure exactly what happened, but it's technical issues. Sorry about that. Thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. OG Gumball, good to see you. Who tripped on the cable? I want to know too. Shirty, how are you this evening? I saw that I renewed someone's inspiration and they're headed off to the studio, so that's very nice. I love hearing that. Great. So I was desperately trying to figure out what happened, but I just restarted the computer and it came back on, no problem. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't know if it was internet or what, but I just reset everything. Project's going good, Shirty. Hi Dasa, welcome back. Sorry I dropped out there for a minute. I'm working on, this is one of the altered teapots. So I finished one from last week. Well, this one was made last week, the over the top handle. And so I just kind of showed that earlier, and then I finished this piece that I have sitting over here. We just did the handle for this one. Jeez, let me get centered again. And so that one's been setting up for a little while, but I did the spout and the handle on this. And then added a spout to this piece. Haven't done the handle yet. I just wanted to let this set up, and while I was doing that, I'm working on I have this lid for this piece here. And so I need to trim it, and I usually trim it with the pot, but unless I can get this pot centered really well. Oh, thanks, Shirty, really appreciate it. Unless I can get this pot centered really well, I won't be able to trim this right on top of it. And that's okay if I can trim it by itself. And so when I do that, I'll just set this on the wheel and trim this up. But I want to see if I can level out the pot, because of the alterations that I did on the side of this piece, the top of the pot ended up not being centered. And that happens when you put so much sculpting into the side of it. And so what I was trying to do is just level out the bottom to the top. So far everything's going well, but now this top should be a little bit more flat because I cut the bottom so that it was flat. Oh, and earlier I did the challenges for the week 3 throwing for the Twitch Pottery Throwdown, and I did we had some closed spherical forms. So this is one of the closed spheres, so it's completely enclosed, round pot. I did 2 of those. Here's the other one. Definitely interesting. So I'll get some pictures of those a little later for the Discord. I'm gonna try to, this camera is real blurry, I'm gonna try to fix that real quick. This is what I do before stream. There we go. Almost. Yeah. Crouch cam's out of focus. Yeah, right. Yeah, so that should fix that. Sorry, I typically take care of all that stuff before I start the stream, but it seems like it dropping out reset the settings on that camera. It likes to autofocus a lot, so I have to tell it not to. Alright, so this lid is going to go in here. I just have to trim this up and make it look like it's not a giant top hat. I think I am going to trim it separately. But it's nice to get this piece trimmed up and centered well. It's definitely more flat across the top. I'm just going to set this aside for a second. And we'll center up this little guy. Hi Polly, how are you this evening? Good to see you. I'm doing well. Hopefully my technical issues are dealt with for this evening. Alright, so I'm just going to put a little bit of clay around this piece. To hold it in place while I trim it. Glad I could catch your stream last night, Polly. I was just popping in and out while I was working. So I'm trying to take off all the excess clay that I used while making the piece, but at the same time I can use it to make a pool. So I will be able to lift the lid off of the piece if I make it the right way. So I'm going to use this extra clay here as a way to make it kind of top off the form. First, I just want to get it in a nice shape to complement that original bottle, so it has a nice kind of round shape. You almost finished your teacups. Very nice. You're on track. I'm definitely behind. I need to finish up these teapots this week and then let them start to dry out. And then the teacups should be really close behind. And if I can get them done this week, I'll be able to get them fired pretty easily. But I've got some other teapots if I don't get the sculpted ones done in time. Yeah, it's been a long process. If I don't get the really ornate ones done in time, I definitely have some other teapots that I've finished that I can glaze real nice and have for the judging. But I think I'll be able to finish in time. 3 weeks is plenty of time. All right. I'm just going to smooth this out with the metal rib. Try to take a little bit of that texture off and smooth it out. And then because of the alteration in that piece where it's kind of wavy, I'm gonna put a wavy cut in the lid here. Actually, first I'm gonna make a little knob, and I'll make the wavy cut coming down from that, so that this can be the pool. Give it a little undercut. Make it a little easier to pick up. Alright. So now I'm going to make a little spiral cut coming down from the knob. And it has to be wobbly, can't be perfect. And then I'm going to make the same kind of wobbly cut coming down the lid. So now you can see the lines coming down from that. And let's see how it looks on the pot. Nice. That's pretty cool. Alright, so there's the sculpted carved lid and pot. Thanks, OG. Appreciate it. Yeah, it does look pretty good together, doesn't it? So I wanted to make the lid a little flatter so that it came up and kind of topped it off. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it, Gumby. So this can still be a teapot. I actually have all the pieces for it. We just have to put it together. I think that'll look really cool. Yeah, that looks really nice together. I really like the way that tops it off. I actually think I might put kind of that wavy spiral along this top edge too a bit. Because I put this little band right in here. It could be interesting. It'll kind of tie the lid into the pot at the bottom a little bit better. So let's center this as best we can. It's pretty close. Because of the form, it's not really easily centered anymore, but nothing wrong with that. That's the beauty of it. All right. Now I've got a bit of a wavy cut in this section where it kind of separates from the rest of the jar here. There we go. Highlight that a little bit, and then just take a sponge over it to clean it up. It's a little softer on those cuts. kind of brings it just brings that same texture down onto this piece here and then kind of flows in. I like that. Alright, so I had a couple spouts that I threw. So let's see. I just want to find a good spot, so I'm thinking one of the areas where it comes down a bit more, maybe right here or here. This spot could be good. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm just going to start shaping up this spout a bit. I'm going to take off some of this excess clay that I don't need. Use the wire. There we go. Trying to get some of that extra clay off and kind of cut it at a slight angle so it starts to fit on here a little bit better. Yeah, I kind of like that. So once that's shaped up, it'll look real nice. Still have to do some shaping to the edge of the spout to get a nice pouring lip on it, but I think I like it. Dasa says, how do you alternate the form of the pot? Did you force the distortion while throwing, or did you sculpt it afterwards? This piece was sculpted during the throwing process. So after I threw the vessel, I used I have this dowel rod, and I used the dowel rod to apply pressure to the side of the pot, and as it was spinning, I allow my hand to kind of do a kind of flowy motion like this while I'm pressing into the side of it, and that gives it that wavy distortion, this kind of pillowy look where it almost looks like it's melting while it's sitting here. Yeah, so that's just how I created this pattern. I was just using this dowel rod while this was still really wet on the wheel. I have another one that I made that I'm going to do all of the sculpting to it by carving and pushing from the inside. I couldn't do that with this piece because the opening is so small and I can't really get my hand in to the lowest parts of the form. So with this one I went for just the distortion. And on the other one, I'm going to be able to get my hand all the way inside it and do some more like actual sculpting and carving and cutting. So that'll be the next one actually. But I think this could lean forward a little bit more. So I'm going to pull this clay base of the spout out a little bit so I get more of a forward movement. Yeah, I really like this. So I'm going to use this piece here. I like the way that it's fitting onto this ridge right here. Kind of goes right down to the bottom of the dip. So I'm just going to mark that. space for the spout very carefully. So I'll just clean that up on the inside and the outside. And then I'm just going to add some moisture and start to create a little slip on the surface of these pieces where they're going to be attached. Same thing on the spout. I'm just going to add some moisture. This clay is a little bit wetter than the last pieces that I did. This was thrown last week. The other piece was thrown 2 weeks ago. So this one I can get away with just using a bit of water and creating the slip on the surface. The other one was a little bit more leather hard, so I had to use the slip for the connections. Start massaging, creating some pressure between these pieces of clay, really blend them together. Blending these two pieces together. Trying to sculpt this line back into it where it kind of looks like it's coming down around the spout. Create a little bit of pressure in there. So it looks like it was always there. going to give this teapot a little bit of a indentation around where it's joined together to kind of mimic the look of the indentations that go around the piece. Maybe even have it come up underneath like that, or wrap around the, let's have that line wrap around the spout to give it that kind of uneven wave that the lid has. So now it has this line that moves under the spout and around it to really mimic the lid and the movement of the pot itself. And then the last thing I need to do for the spout is just make sure that the pouring edge is good. So there's the spout attached to this form and lid. Now it just needs a handle. I'm not 100% worried about the symmetry with this piece because I've put a lot of asymmetry in it, but I do want it to have uniformness and to also carry the eye across the piece very well. So adding symmetry to a piece, even though it is asymmetrical, really helps kind of balance it and bring your attention to the places that you're trying to get your eye drawn to. So that's why I'm still using some symmetry in this piece, but at the same time I can allow for some distortions and things to not be 100% uniform. So there's a few inconsistencies in the spout, but not much. It's just so like the way that it's moving has some asymmetry in it, and then but it's still very balanced. And when I put the handle on, I'll probably still try to keep the balance of the piece, but allow it to kind of flow a little bit as it attaches to the form. That there. Need to get a piece of clay for this clay body. It's a little bit different than the other one I was using. We'll go ahead and start working on the piece for the handle. Start by just pre-shaping this clay a bit into the form that I want it to be in before I ever add water to stretch it. So here's the piece for the handle. So now the decision is, do I go over top? Do I go off the side? I think I'm going to come off the back side here. Yeah. Add some water here at the point of connection. Together. Sure it's connected really well all the way around. Line this up so that your hand sits moving towards the spout. Still want a little more handle, so I'm going to move the clay up. I'm going to let this handle push forward a little bit. Start to create a different kind of shape. So it's kind of kicking back in towards the front of the pot. That's enough clay for the handle to hold here. So I'm gonna start to apply the base of the handle here. And then I don't want it to just end. I want it to kind of flow with the pot. I'm gonna have it come off and start to mimic flow. See that? Of the piece here. And I'll just sculpt that. A little bit of water and really let it take shape. Thanks. So that's starting to wrap around. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, OG. Really appreciate it. Alright, so we've got that handle now, and it kind of wraps around from its connection point, and I can keep sculpting that a little bit just to make it really blend and have a nice natural flow to it. So I'm just going to pop the lid back on so we can take a look at the whole aesthetic of it. Alright, so we've got that coming around. It's a pretty cool teapot. I like it a lot. Oh, thanks, Polly. It's got a lot of flow, it's got a lot of character. So really, with this piece now, it's just down to fine details, just trying to, you know, polish up any of the little edges, getting rid of all the little burrs, but I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. I really want to let the handle set up, so I'm going to stop. Yeah, I want to spray it. I really would like to spray it with some glazes, so I'll probably break out the spray booth for that. But I'm going to leave this to set so the handle doesn't get deformed at all. leave that one back there for a little bit so it can just kind of hang out and get the handle set up good. So that's the kind of stuff I really like making. The really funky, altered pieces like that. Oh, this was that piece I made that weird lid for. That's not a teapot. I made this strange lid for this thing. I don't even know. It's still a little wet. We'll see. That's not the piece I was looking for. They all look very similar under plastic. Alright. So this piece we've had setting up for since last week, and it's going to be one that I take and sculpt a bit, but this is also going to be carved. So kind of the first thing you do when approaching a piece like this is just to get an idea of what you think you'd like to see. And separate this. So I take a look at the piece, and obviously your shoulder is the most dominant point on your form. That's where the eye goes to first. So that's where I want to have the bulk of the design or pattern moving through. So ideally, I'll have most of the shaping or sculpting going through this top end. Hello, Minotaur. How are you? Hope you're having a good evening. And so what I'm going to do is kind of draw out a little bit of the design I might like, or at least a little bit of the flow of the design. So if I start to just give myself some guidelines. So then I can really start using that as a way to kind of separate the form and then give me an idea of where to start working. So what I'm going to do is actually use these lines, and I'm going to start pressing. You'll see I'm pressing up through the clay just behind where I carved that mark, kind of pushing it out a little bit. And then I'll use the tool to really get back in there. And reinforce that. Like so. So there's the first wave on that piece, moving up through there. Then And I'll do the same thing going around. I'm just going to press up behind where I made my mark. Follow it. It's got a little bit of a wave to it. And then I'm going to press and reinforce the line. So. Oh, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's a process that I've done a lot of times on many pieces, but the technique, I don't know. I've not really seen. I guess there's lots of people who do thrown and altered work, and that's kind of the inspiration, but I've not really seen too many techniques that other people use. I just kind of created a lot of this myself. I just decided that here's the clay, here's my material, what do I want to do with it, and how do I know how to move the clay. So I just kind of come up with these techniques, and I mean, I'm sure other people use the same exact technique. It's just, you know, my version of it, but no one really taught me specifically how. I just kind of started trying it and figuring out ways to do it. So you're always running this like fine line between tearing through the pot or destroying its structural integrity, and but that's kind of the fun of it. Seeing if you can push it to its limits and where you can take it from there. So now I'll just go through and reinforce this movement. Lots of looking at other people's pots and trying to find a personal aesthetic. We studied lots of other artists. Yeah, that's true. It's really a culmination of, you know, who you're inspired by and finding the look of the pieces that you like of those people's, and then studying their work, looking at their work, and trying to figure out like what you can do to kind of get some of that with that. Like, I personally never wanted to just steal someone's work, so I try to find ways that I can do my own versions of the things that I really like. Every once in a while, if I'm just trying a technique, then I'll try to do something very literally from like a guided demo or something like that, but you have to still kind of take it as just a tool in your toolbox. You know, you've got all of these things that you can do, and how do you use them to make something for yourself? So, you know, I learned stuff from looking at Tom Coleman's work, and I have friends. A good friend of mine, Philip Taylor, makes these gorgeous sculpted pieces, thrown in sculpted pieces, and I remember looking at his work a lot when I was practicing and learning, and it's definitely a big influence on some of the work I make. Trying to get these lines moving into this kind of like they're revolving around this ring here where the lid's gonna sit. I'm just trying to bring everything up and join it together. So some of these areas will be gone back over, and I can make other marks in them and create other movements. So like I can subdivide now these 5 sections and start to create more movement and then continue to work down through the piece. So like this piece here, I might take and move back in that direction. And then sculpt through. It's important to be able to get your hand inside the piece when you're doing stuff like this. And then it's just spending a lot of time going through and sculpting. So like now I've got this section that was coming up is now being subdivided back down this way, and then it creates this movement moving up through the piece, and then I can keep doing that. I do like the way it looks when you subdivide in odd numbers. So like 3, 5, 7. So I tend to start my designs with a slightly, like one of the odd numbers instead of even. It's just an aesthetic choice, but I think it tends to make unique looking pots. So you're starting to see the shapes forming in the rim of this pot, starting to give it lots of dimension, lots of movement, lots of fluidity. Just trying to highlight the aesthetic of the clay, the the fact that it is pliable and manipulatable and soft and plastic, and show all those characteristics to someone who may not ever touch clay, but then when they look at the piece they can just see that it has that quality. To just soften and emphasize these marks that are being made. This process is very cathartic. It can be very relaxing and kind of just let you explore your imagination, and that's kind of the beauty of what I like to do with clay. Is if I'm gonna sit down and relax and make a fun pot, like I just want to kind of have that same feeling you get when you're a child playing with something for the first time and just kind of exploring the qualities of the material. It does help that I know the limitations, but I think that helps with allowing you the freedom of play. This piece is coming along pretty good, and I really want to work on it some more. I think I'm going to come back tomorrow night, and again I'll be on from 6 to 9 tomorrow, and I'll finish working on this piece, and I'll get a handle on that other teapot tomorrow too. So it's just again continuing to sculpt and carve and really flesh out the qualities of this pattern that I'm pressing into the surface, and we'll go from there. Thank you everyone who joined me this evening. I'm sorry for the technical issues where the stream cut out, and I'm really glad that a lot of you came back and tuned back in so that I could keep working on it. And let's take a look at the set this teapot in place again. These couple pieces. Mink doll. Pots look beautiful. Thanks for the stream. Thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out for a while. Original Systems says it's fire. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So this was one of the fun teapots we just finished a little while ago. This one will set up. Lisa, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And look forward to everyone hanging out again tomorrow. And again, we'll keep working on this one, and we'll get the spout and lid and everything put on it, and I'll also get into sculpting it up a lot more. So that'll be a lot of fun. it's very enjoyable. So I'm enjoying it. Baka, hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully I get to catch your stream soon. So yeah, having fun making some crazy teapots. This one's handle comes down, wraps around the side of the pot. It's very cool. Really appreciate it, everybody. And I look forward to streaming tomorrow. All right, I'll catch you all later.